Who's ready to win the day in sports? I know you are. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Justin Fensterman, and let's break everything down from a fantasy sports perspective. What is going on, everybody? My name is Justin Fensterman, and welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by the good old FG, FantasyGuru.com. Make sure you give me a follow at Fensty Sports, FENSTY Sports on X and Instagram, and you can find me in the Fantasy Guru Discord chat at Fensty, FENSTY. Coming off an awesome night when it came to the betting side from the late night hammer, the Los Angeles Lakers coming through on the rebounding end. What did we talk about last week on this very show? When somebody is out, all of a sudden, a universal bump happens. That's going to be a big topic of what I talk about today when it comes to basketball with some of these other teams. But DeAndre Ayton out means that some of that rebounding production has to be spread out a bit beyond a guy like LeBron James. So what did we do at FantasyGuru.com? We put the LeBron rebound prop. We altered it down. We put Austin Reeves, who I just had a great feeling, and we had seen the proof in the pudding. Sometimes when we look at rebounding props, for instance, we see, well, they only went over by one cushion. Well, guess what? If they're going over, that's proof. That's proof in the pudding. And that's where we're going to win. And especially coming off a big-time injury, we got to take advantage now when it comes to the Los Angeles Lakers, especially before everybody else catches up. That's why you join us at FantasyGuru.com. The deep research, the numbers all come together, and I explain my process, whether it's in this show every single Wednesday, which I'm on. The other days you hear Ray Flowers. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, noon Eastern, our extension to you. Free stream from FantasyGuru.com so you can find out some of the heat that we're bringing on a week-in, week-out basis. Love to get the holiday started like that. Something else that I'll talk about too, because, Fensty's just going to show off, because he's the best. No, I'm not the best at predicting when Cam Whitmore, coming off last night when it came to the Washington Wizards. 9 minutes? Why? Why did that happen? Keyshawn George ruled out. This guy had a rainbow red flop of a matchup. An amazing matchup where we were going to see pace. We were going to see, and the Washington Wizards shooting so well last night. They didn't even need him. They barely played him. It sucked. That I could not predict. I thought he was locked in already before George was ruled out. But that's what happens sometimes. That's why we play these games and we turn the page to the next night of action. And that's tonight. And I'm going to talk about not only some of the plays that I like, but where you can find extra information at FantasyGuru.com. You want tools? We have tools. I don't think anybody really knows about some of the tools that we have to offer at the site. If you are part of FantasyGuru.com. You can find those tools in the data section, and it has the sports listed. And for the NBA side, you get everything, and I'll bring them up here right now for you. Everything from props to DFS analysis to also ceiling plays that get updated automatically. I talked about this a little bit last week. We're still working on the page that does have ownership to get automatically updated. That is a long-term project, but that's something that we're still working at. But what you see right there on this list is what you get in the NBA data section. If that's the NBA data section, imagine the other sports too. And that's why you go to FantasyGuru.com, because not only do you get a very fiery Fensty win on nights where I win and I lose, and I explain what led me to both areas and what didn't happen. Not trying to make excuses, but telling you, hey, I thought Cam Whitmore could have played 25, 30 minutes last night. Easily. But no, that's it. Just 9 minutes, and that's it. And the Wizards were shooting so well. It was a shock. It was a shock of all shocks. Seeing the Atlanta Hawks just get worked by the Washington Wizards like that. Wow. Good shooting by the Wizards just kept them ahead. Absolutely incredible. And they didn't need to do much tinkering after that. Will I go back to Cam Whitmore a week later if he's in another good opportunity like this? Yes, I will. Yes. Because the next day comes and it's like the Men in Black mind eraser. We're good. we're good. We're on to the next day. And that includes betting too. I'll have some bets up a little bit later. I will have an article for tonight's slate written up. I've got the big board written up. Going to go over some of the players here in just a few moments. And then I normally don't have watch along Wednesday, the night before Thanksgiving, normally with family that night, but plans got a little changed up a bit. So because of that, I get to hang with the Elite Mafia family for just a little bit. I'll have an abbreviated watch along Wednesday tonight, 7:15 p.m. Eastern. Be there, be square, be in the DFS NBA Discord channel, because I'll be there right before the daybreak of NBA, and we all watch our football and get filled with food and fun and love and holiday spirit. We've got some NBA coverage for you on the site. I'll be building tonight with Brett Wojo in our Discord, and then watch along Wednesday shortly after that for about an hour and a half. And then we will move on to Friday slate with no NBA action on Thursday. So again, these are our tools that we have at fantasyguru.com. The Delta Force tool that determines ceilings for DFS NBA plays, updates automatically. Totals, we have a totals page. You see that 3%, 3.5 to 4% at least edge on an over or an under. You can roll with it at that point. That's the edge that we are looking at. And we've got a props tool that also updates automatically with our ownership tool, the only one that needs manual updating. So getting fired up, getting ready for tonight. Love being in this kind of time of season where we've got football rocking and rolling, home stretch. We want to clinch those playoffs, damn it. And Rich Maletto is going to join me in a little bit to talk about the latest and the greatest heading into week 13. Remember, we got games going on Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. You better get ready. It's very easy to lose focus and let our competitive guards down. It's holiday time. Let's float into the holiday. Maybe with your full-time job, everything kind of turns down a notch at the end of the year, and you can just float through with holiday parties in the office and spread that holiday cheer. But don't give up your competitive fire, because it's very easy to do so around these holidays, and it's very easy for things to fall into the cracks. And that's why I'm telling you right now, we got to stay focused. That's how we win. We can't take our foot off the gas pedal until we don't have any more games to dominate anymore. This is how we live our lives here as part of the Elite Mafia. Love that. Seaweed, great to see you. Work and grind. You are a P1, my man. You are somebody that's always been rocking and rolling with not only fantasyguru.com, but with yours truly. I'm thankful for you. And Ray Flowers said this yesterday, and I'm going to say it again today, because I don't know how many times we have to say this, and I just want to make sure that all of you hear it, whether you're hanging out with me now or catch it up later on. We are all thankful for you, for your subscription, for your trust, for your investment, because that's what it's all about. These websites in our space, they don't exist without great people like you and your investment of your time and your investment in the subscription. And that's why we care so much about making sure that you have the best opportunities to win, coming straight from the heart. That's why the passion exists. That's why I'm saying, hey, a lot of places, normal 9-to-5s are going to be closing up shop. This shop stays open. This shop continues to churn and burn through the holidays. That's what we do, because we want to win, and I want to win, and I want everybody in here right now. I want all of our subscribers to win too, and everything. Hello to everybody out there. Also, Seaweed, congratulations on the win. What I've been doing, in a good way to alt parlay these rebound props, taking someone that grabs a hell of a lot of rebounds and then alting them down. And you'll see that the odds are really juiced up, but it will bring some of our other players of focus down a little bit more. And if I can get a minus 115 two-leg parlay to, let's say, a plus 108 three-leg parlay with, I don't want to say an obvious leg, but something that should come through pretty easily, like a Vitsa Zubac being able to rebound in general, let alone against an 8-less Lakers team. That's why I made the plays. And you see the description of what I'm seeing. And some of you that have been rolling with me, if you don't see what I'm seeing in the play, don't play it. Find another way, please. I won't get offended. I'm just letting you know what I'm seeing and what's made this play in particular, the specific play, the parlay from last night with the Lakers and the Clippers that hit, the parlay with the Wizards and the Hawks that didn't hit. I explain everything that I see in my research and add a little bit of what I've been watching with these teams and see if it all adds up. Some days it does and it doesn't come through. Last night in DFS, Cam Whitmore, no explanation on that one. We were all hit. It's not like we spent a lot for him, but in a 3-game slate, if you get a, let's say, $3,800, $4,000 player, that's an opportunity right there. And that's how we balance out our budgets a little bit more. So it's great seeing everybody get into the NBA. And I was going to wait a little bit, but instead, going to give a surprise now because I'm in a very good-spirited mood right now, as I tend to be. Here's a fun little surprise for everybody out there that's not part of fantasyguru.com. It's Mansgiving, baby. That's right. Promo code for if you want to join the Elite Mafia, support at fantasyguru.com. Or just go to fantasyguru.com. Promo code GRAVY25, GRAVY 25, no space right there, to get 25 freaking percent off what we have to offer at fantasyguru.com. If you want to go in on the all-in NFL plan, which is right now sitting at $99, where you get everything we have to offer for football specifically through the rest of the season and the playoffs, boom, Mansgiving promo code GRAVY 25% off for that one. You want to be an MVP? Rock and roll with yours truly in NBA and also our NHL crew, our PGA crew when it's time, our racing crew, our MMA crew. If you want to be an MVP and you get everything, every sport we have to offer except for football and baseball, you can sign up for the MVP plan and you could put that promo code GRAVY25 to get 25% off. Promo code good through the weekend, maybe a couple of bonus days after that, as we tend to do at fantasyguru.com. But this is an excellent opportunity for you to get in a little bit cheaper of what's been already discounted as part of our site. I love the site, take a lot of pride working for the site, and would be happy to hang with more Elite Mafia members, especially in 2026. So again, Gravy25, GRAVY25, to get 25% off any of our packages that we have to offer. Let's go and talk about what's on the agenda for the rest of the show here. As you see, some of the DFS plays, and I kind of leave this up here because I don't know when a few of you are tuning in and checking this out. Maybe you're joining midstream and don't want you to miss anything. So instead of seeing my beautiful face that's right in front of you, front and center, going to keep myself off to the side and get to the meat and potatoes. And that's not only what you're going to get on your plates, but also what we're talking about for plays for the weekend. What I'm going to talk about with Rich Maletto, who's going to join me at Fantasy Bosco. By the way, don't follow him on Twitter. I don't know why I just said that. He's going to join me at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So let's talk about this slate today. I woke up, I was nervous because there's a 5 p.m. Eastern NBA game, and I thought for a second that FanDuel was going to be foolish and include that 5 p.m. Eastern game. They did not. It's the main slate is still starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. So something that's been a little unusual this NBA season, we have a uniform slate between FanDuel and DraftKings. Yay, give us more of that, please, because it's easier to figure out one strategy as opposed to two on a night in, night out basis. So here's where I think the value lies. When I look at the top totals of the evening, yes, that Knicks Charlotte 240.5. To me, when I see the Knicks in a 240.5 total, that means that this total is indicating to me that Charlotte's defense is going to be piss poor tonight. And the Knicks, even dealing with OG Anunoby hurt, the Knicks are going to be able to run all over them, score all over them. They do have size in the post, but the Knicks should be able to take care of business there with the 240.5 total. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going all in and stacking this game. If anything, it makes me wonder if I should look at one or two options, one priced up option, one maybe cheapy, and then kind of stay away after that because the Knicks defense is good enough to slow them down. But the Knicks do have a pace-up spot tonight. The problem is with this Knicks team, no one is able to really give us, not nobody, but very few Knicks are able to give us that good, strong 5 to 6x return that we're looking at. So that means that, okay, we can look at a guy like maybe a Jalen Brunson tonight. And that, to me, a lot of ball control, that screams safety in a nice pace-up spot. Karl Anthony Towns is going to be a matchup nightmare for anyone. And Mitchell Robinson being in there actually benefits him for this matchup because when you got guys like Big Moose and you've got Kalkbrenner and you've got Bridges, aggressive guys, you want to kind of get them out of the paint a little bit, or you want someone in there messing with them so it opens up the other part of the lane for somebody else to cut. One day I am going to get like a digital kind of like board where I could just like draw over it, John Madden style, a telestrator. That way I could just show you guys where exactly the openings on the court should be. But when Mitchell Robinson's out there, guys like Kalkbrenner, their job is going to be just to keep him out of the post because he grabs a lot of rebounds and to try to not foul him. So that's going to open things up for Towns a little bit more. If Robinson was out, then, okay, maybe I'm a little bit more afraid, stay away from Towns, look at another option there. But I like that Robinson will be a good foil for Towns, and when they're in, they don't really get in each other's way. I like that very much. But the big thing is with these totals that I'm seeing, even though right now it comes in at number 5 for top totals of the 8 games, Indiana-Toronto is where I'm looking. And this is why. There's a few reasons here. The Toronto Raptors are a little bit less confusing to figure out when one of their starters is out of the mix. And for a few more games, RJ Barrett will be out of the mix. And when I say that, unlike other teams where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to have a ton of time with the ball. He's going to have a ton of usage. James Harden, ton of usage, especially in those games with Kawhi out. But with this Raptors team, you see Quickly get time bringing up the ball. You get Barnes bringing up the ball a decent amount. Ingram bringing up the ball a decent amount. Barrett bringing up the ball a decent amount. So the usage is very spread out, almost spread too thin. But that's why we haven't seen the price points on some of these guys elevated as much. When Scotty Barnes was going on his rebounding tear, we started to see the price point on him go up. But the other guys, Barrett remaining in the 6K range, Quickly remaining in the 6K range, Jakob Poeltl 5 to 6K range, which I like very much for that price point. And even when you have a guy like Brandon Ingram, okay, he's now 7 to 7,500. He's like in that 7 to 8K range. And now it brings us more justification to utilize these guys when somebody sits, because now there's a good chunk of usage that's going to now be spread further, probably going a little bit more immediately to Emmanuel Quickly. And that's something I've noticed, and that's something I'm on. And I'm on it to the point, guys, where because it's Indiana, and while they now do have a healthy Nembhard and a healthy Mathurin, at the same time, they shoot very poorly as a whole. They play really fast. Their defense isn't that great. And they give up a lot of rebounds to opponents too. And we know these Raptors guys aren't just scorers and that's it. They produce in multiple categories. So that's why, despite it being the 5th highest total, whereas if they were at full strength, then we kind of pick and choose. I'm pretty in on Toronto tonight. And thinking that Toronto should be able to take care of Indiana. And look, you're going to have Pascal Siakam, I'm sure, playing with some extra motivation. I'm not a revenge narrative guy or anything like that, but it's a nice quick pace. It's good. You know, there's familiarity there. But the other part of this is I can also look a little bit at Toronto's bench, and it's shed season, because Jamal Shed is somebody that we're going to be looking at this evening. We have to, because he's been coming through. He picks up some of that usage as well off the bench, I think that we've seen the proof already. It's not just we're trying to guess when Cleveland rules out half their team. Okay, Do we pay up for Lonzo Ball in the late 4Ks, or do we go with the Craig Porter? Instead, we know that the guy that's going to be controlling the rock off the bench and with that second unit for a decent amount of time, Jamal Shead. I was talking with some of my other friends who are analysts in the space too, and one of the things that we both noticed is that Jamal Shead is even, and I'll say that, even in there during late game action too. And for a team that already prides themselves on defense, that says a lot. So that's why I'm very in on these Raptors guys. Now, things can change between now and when we start building in our Discord at 6 p.m. Eastern. But Jamal Shead on a night like tonight, I think is a very safe value play. I look for the pace-up spot. This one should have a very nice, swift speed attached to the game flow. And that's another area where we can look at props too, because it's harder to figure out, especially those rebounding and assist props, when you have the Raptors at full strength. When Barrett is out, though, now we can trust a player or two to grab that extra board. We can trust Barnes and quickly, especially a little bit more. Ingram a little bit more assists to go around too, because you know some of these starters are going to be running the offense with the second unit when the starting lineup is divided throughout the game. So that is where I'm looking, and I'm very excited. Do I look on the other side? Yeah, I mean, I would run it back. I would look at guys like Mathurin and Nembhard are still cheap enough, but beyond them, it's just very hard for me. It's either you're going Siakam or bust, and at the price point that he's at, in a flow like this, he could hit, but let's not forget that Toronto does play pretty good defense. So that's why when we do full stack, I'm hesitant to just build the entire core four tonight around this game. But at the same time, if I don't have anyone from Toronto in the core four, then those plays are definitely going to be welcomed to mix in with the rest of the core four. I think it's a safe team to build around tonight. It's not that expensive of a price point. You want to go Barnes, that's fine too. If you're looking for him to volume produce, could be that night doing that. And that's why I'm just so excited. I'm excited about all these slates because I'm an NBA mark. I'm a sports mark. That's why I'm here. But still, on a night like tonight, especially where tomorrow we have a break in the action, so I really want us to go into our Thanksgivings full of food, also full of quiche too. And that's why we're talking a little strategy going into tonight's slate. Let's talk a little bit, as you see here, because I want to get into a little bit of a betting strategy conversation, because I did last week talk a little bit about rebounding chances. And I'll spend a couple of minutes talking rebounding chances a little bit more with you. And that's when to get off the player. And I learned a very valuable lesson the other night, and that's Deni Avdija, who the numbers were really showing me that the rebounding, not only the rebounding obviously down when you look at his average, but and game log, but the rebounding chances were down a little bit. They were still at the point where I felt that we can trust, but they were down. And that's where we have to trust the numbers a little bit more. And when we're seeing a decrease, and that's where we look last 5 games, last 3 games, decrease. That's when I got to figure out that even though he might be averaging 10, 11 rebounding chances per game, if we're going to put him in a parlay, I'm used to seeing Deni Avdija grab a hell of a lot of rebounds. But I think between Donovan Clingan just taking over the entire paint, grabbing every rebound under the sun, and something I noticed while watching them the other night, and I should have realized it a little bit more, but I kind of felt like he was just there. But Jeremy Grant, we can't forget, he's made his career not by shooting from the mid-range. He's made his career by that defense he plays. They need him inside to close down those lanes. And when I was watching Portland, and just for all of you to know, I don't watch every minute of every game. There's just not enough time. So what I tend to do is and this is part of the Fenstees Basketball Diaries inspiration for my Fenstees Basketball Diaries podcast that I have at fantasyguru.com. New episodes drop every Thursday on the site, the Elite Plus Network. But when it came to how I get exposure to these teams, I log everything I watch, but I watch halves of games a lot of the time. Some nights I'll watch a team in the first half and I'll mark down the situation if they're getting their ass kicked or it's a nice close game. If a key player is out, and I'll write a few game notes of what I saw. It doesn't have to be anything analytical, just what I'm seeing, where these players are standing on the court, something like that. And I didn't notice this when I had last watched Portland, which was a few weeks back, but the other night I decided to watch them. We had the parlay on them. Let's watch them. Let's see what's going on. Avdia is standing, especially on defense, more on the outside. That's going to lower the rebounding chances a little bit. That's why I thought maybe it was just for a match. No, he really wasn't cutting inside on defense like I'm used to seeing. He's hanging on the outside. And that's because let's say there's an offensive rebound from the opposition. Denny Avdia is very quick. He's very agile. And if they try to pass the ball out, maybe he gets a steal, forces a turnover. That's one of the reasons. Another reason, Jeremy Grant's a good defender and good stopper in transition. And if someone's rushing down the court, maybe he stops the break and he halts them. And then Portland has enough of a chance to set up. Those are a few things I learned from watching. And that's why we do Watch Along Wednesday. Tonight, 7:15 p.m. Eastern, right in the DFS NBA Discord room. I'll be reacting to games. He had a nice turnout last week. I was very excited about that. Love seeing a good turnout for Watch Along Wednesday. Let's do it once again tonight while we're getting ready for the big time Thanksgiving feast out there. Other players that I'm looking at tonight, again, I talked about the Raptors value being shed, seems to be someone that I'm going to be looking at from the value side quickly, very into Barnes. Really those three, and there's a lot of fun value at center, so I'm fine there too. Other guys that I'm into on this slate, I'm going to be looking at Devin Booker. Tyler Herro is right there, man. It's kind of like Zion with what we're seeing where you just know he's going to play 30 minutes, even though he's having a great game. But I feel like Tyler Herro, he at 8,100, he can volume produce and get us to that 5X. I really want to put him in there, especially with some of the Heat's midcourt players hurting, that maybe they give him a little bit more. They had kept him out for as long as they did. Maybe he's ready now, but how it kind of works from long-term injuries, it's a slow back to your normal minutes type of deal. And to me, I kind of have the 3-game rule that I keep in mind unless we see the trend go up. That's not something that we've seen. So Tyler Herro is someone that I'm toying around with. Values I like. Keldon Johnson, I like him as a value. Saddiq Bey has looked good. Zion in, Zion out. Who cares? This team's front court offense at this point is Bey, Williamson, Derek Queen. That's pretty much it. And you know Zion's only playing 30 minutes tonight. And then finally, someone who kind of goes a little forgotten about, and that's because he's burnt us a few times, and it's not just because he's on the Phoenix Suns, but Mark Williams tonight in a fine matchup. Cheap option, cheap center, can volume produce. We know that his minutes are constantly being monitored, but he can produce enough points and boards in his matchup to be able to help us gain that value, a nice value at center. I will have more on that throughout the rest of the afternoon. And at 6 p.m. Eastern, when I'll be in Discord lineup building with you. Let's switch it up right now, though, and bring in one of our favorite guys from fantasyguru.com, and his name is Rich Maletto, the Bosco. What's going on, Rich? It's great to see you.
It's great to see you, Finsty. I am down here in Memphis, enjoying some warmer weather than I get at home, although people are complaining it's cold.
Walking in Memphis, I will never sing again.
Hey, that's a great tune, though, man. I was listening to it. I mean, as we were coming in from the airport, and I said, I haven't been on Beale Street in forever. My dad's like, what? I was like, listen to this song. He's talking about being on Beale Street.
What do you like better, Nashville or Memphis?
Oh, man, is my internet going to be?
I still got you breaking up just a little bit, but
I have family in Memphis, so I'm partial to Memphis, but I'll be honest, man, Memphis is kind of I don't want to be too mean here, but it's pretty rough around the edges. Nashville's a fun time, right? But
I've never been. I've always wanted to go.
You've never been?
Never been. I've always wanted to go get hot chicken. Out of anything to do at Nashville, the Opry, no, I want to go get hot chicken. That's what I want to do in Nashville.
I had some crazy hot chicken just off of Market Street there. And bro, that was hot. Like, I struggled. I'm not going to lie. The guy I was with, we struggled to eat that hot chicken, man. It was tasty. But I tell you what, the ribs in Memphis, and I do like Beale Street. Jermaine. I do. At least it used to be a good time. I have no idea what it's like now, but there was a lot of fun places down on Beach Street.
Sure. So beyond Memphis, let's talk a little bit about your Cleveland Browns. I just want to get your take, man, because I know a lot of people are very negative on Shedeur Sanders and everything, but I'll say this, all things considered, he had a couple of really nice throws, and I'm not going to all of a sudden take what little we saw last week and elevate him just like that, but it was encouraging to see some of those really good throws. Jerry Jeudy made an asinine, stupid-ass play.
Dude, that would...
Yeah, man. So I got to ask you, what did you think of what you saw from Shedeur in this first start?
I understand the concerns on Shedeur. I'm not the biggest Shedeur guy, right? So I may not be the best person to talk to because I'm not going to be one of his biggest defenders. That said, I don't think you can deny that the offense looked less anemic, right? I mean, I don't want to sit here and say the offense looked so much better because I think there's a lot of fluff and, I don't know, fireworks and sparklers and stuff being thrown at Sanders because the Browns scored like the 24 points for the first time all year or the second time, whatever it was. He definitely pushed the ball down the field more than Dillon Gabriel did. And I think that's significant. That matters, right? And I think that also led into a little bit of more pep in the step for some of the other players. Dylan Sampson flashed quite a bit. How much of that is just he's finally, at peace with the playbook and things are happening, in time and rhythm for him instead of thinking about it. How much of that is that the Browns were passing it more downfield than they have been. I mean, Isaiah Bond had a nice play. Jeudy had that nice play. Tillman was getting a little bit involved. I would have liked to have seen him a little more involved. And honestly, this is the best Judkins has looked too for the last month. And I attribute that, I think, to the fact that the Raiders were trying to be a little more honest protecting the pass. I think the Browns had gotten so predictable. I mean, you knew 30 to 40% of all the targets were going to the tight ends when Dillon Gabriel was under center. And it was one receiver, depending on who it was, who the matchup was, that would get involved. So I think the Browns looked a little better. I think that's why you saw Sanders announced as a starter. And at the same time, I mean, to go from an F to a D, what does that really mean? I mean, I don't want to be too negative here, but at the same time, let's be kind of honest about what we're talking about, right?
Hey, man, that's graduation for some people right there. That's how you get your diploma in high school, bro.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand there is a jump from F to D, but let's not pretend that someone just made the honor roll here and they're going to college. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's, the two things can be true at the same time, right? So I think the Browns have to see what they have in Sanders. I think, this is a what do you call it? Kind of a tryout, if you will, for Sanders to see, do they have something there? Is he just going to be a backup? What is he? I also think it's, a chance for the coaching staff to maybe save their hide. I will be shocked if this coaching staff returns outside of Jim Schwartz. So, I was pleasantly not necessarily surprised because I expected something different from Sanders. I was pleasantly, I don't even know if impressed is a word. He looked better than, say, the fantasy score showed, but for fantasy purposes, he's off the radar. Right?
Yeah, no. Let's not go crazy. But anyone that he could be throwing to being on the radar potentially, I'm not too sure here. Fannin and Njoku, anyone here kind of put a spark in your mind, or it's just kind of like meh, low ceiling, and we still don't know who he prioritizes.
I lean Fannin mostly because I think Njoku's probably not returning next year, would be my guess. This has been the problem with the tight ends and the Browns all year, though, right? Like, it's one week, it's one the next week. Between the two of them, they're seeing, in excess of 30 to 40% of the targets. Like, how much of that's designed of the offense because it hasn't changed, although we didn't see that much target volume for the tight ends with Joe Flacco. So how much of it is Dillon Gabriel not willing to push the ball down the field? What we see a little bit different with Shedeur Sanders because he seems a little more willing to push it down the field. I lean Fannin, but I mean, look, Brenton Strange is out there. Go get him. Jawan Johnson is out there. Go get him. You know, those are the guys I think you're better off using over Fannin and Njoku, just because I think they're going to cannibalize each other's volume, which, I mean, 4 points from tight end is fine when they flash and look sexy, but Jawan Johnson's getting 4 to 5 to 6 targets a week, as is Brenton Strange. You can lock it in. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want the headache sometimes. Like, what's the difference in a floor of 4.5 and 5.0?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Let me ask you this, Rich, because you're talking about a headache here, and I was going to ask you because in your streamers article that you have now out at fantasyguru.com, you have Brenton Strange in there. And after what we saw with him coming off the IR, that's great and everything. But Jacksonville has been one of the toughest teams to figure out. You talk about a team that gives you headaches when it comes to the pass catchers and who's going to produce on a given day, even with a little bit cleared out. I mean, you feel that we can trust Strange, maybe not only as a streamer, but the rest of the way? Or is this going to be just the Trevor Lawrence roller coaster experience ride to hell?
Honestly, I think we're underplaying the roles in the offense, because after Brenton Strange went down, that's when we had those last weeks of Parker Washington, right? And then that kind of soured a little bit. So I think what you saw there was more, both players are going to attack the same part of the field, right? Like, they're going to be used in similar ways as far as passing routes, where they're targeted on the field, run after the catch type stuff. That's both of them have a very similar role in that regard. So from my perspective, I think we saw the uptick in Parker Washington more so due to Brenton Strange being gone. And if you look at what Strange did before the injury, he was kind of being a bottom end tight end one, right? Like, it wasn't super sexy, but the guy was seeing on average, I want to say it was almost 5 targets a game at that point. I'm trying to pull it up right now. So I have a little more faith in Strange. Now, I'll be honest, I'm really torn between Jawan Johnson and Brenton Strange right now. And the reason for that, I think you could argue that Vele or Neal potentially now will see as many targets, but I don't think you can say that with Brenton Strange, at least not every week basis, right? Brian Thomas, number one, if he, I don't, is Brian Thomas alive? I have not found that out yet. I hear he is, but I haven't seen him anywhere. I don't know if we're ever going to see Brian Thomas again. But I feel like you're just kind of guessing on what Trevor Lawrence is going to do as far as the passing volume, where Tyler Schlock, I mean, say what you want about the guy. The dude has no problem pushing the ball down the field. I mean, like, I don't know why they wanted to use so much Taysom Hill last week, but I mean, Schlock hasn't been all that, but he's not scared. I tell you what, that is one dude that really, he's kind of like Flacco. He just doesn't really give an F, does he?
No. I mean, look what kind of situation he's playing in right now. You know, the team is what it is. So he's just trying to find someone who has an even chance to get open, let alone getting open. Someone that you can rely on besides Chris Olave too. And that's where I got to bring up. You mentioned Devin Neal with Kamara dealing with the knee injury here. And the matchup couldn't be better. Do you think Devin Neal is someone that we can, even on a week where we have no buys, we can flex him in a week like this?
Yeah, he's absolutely flex worthy. Long term, I'm not overly excited. I know a lot of people are. You know, oh, Kamara's out. Here's a chance to get another starting running back. Totally fair. But go ask the Kamara owner how much they love starting Kamara for the last month. Yeah. I don't, you know. Now, here's the thing. Neal scored decent last week, but it was almost 100% through the passing attack, right? I mean, the guy had 7 targets or 7 receptions. I mean, that's a lot for a running back. And yet he hit 43 yards, which, let's not forget, 2 weeks ago, Breece Hall took up 1 screen pass for 42 yards. So I don't want to get overly excited on the Neal situation. As a flex play, absolutely. I would rather use Neal than say, oh, I'd probably use Neal over Bam Knight this week, right? I mean, even if Benson's out, Bam Knight's been carried, by the touchdowns. Otherwise, it hasn't been there. Is Neal more on par with Michael Carter? I mean, they almost had similar stat lines for last week, the 8 points and where the 8 points came from, So, I mean, if we're not rushing out to start Carter, are we really rushing out to start Neal? I think, it's kind of that shiny new object thing, right? Like, I got a new Cadillac. It's 1978.
Let's be real. You think, I mean, we all see Neil and we all see Miami, and you're thinking, okay, give this guy 12 to 15 carries, throw to him a few times. What can go wrong?
And you know what? For this weekend, Fensty, I think you're probably going to be spot on. My biggest fear is people are going to see something this week and be like, I got an RB2-3 going forward.
Yeah, and then the following week, the matchup is harder, and then they miss their playoffs. They blame us because, oh, Neil, you said it week 13. Now it's week 14. Yes, Rich, I see where you're going with the nice little domino effect that this could lead to. But for this week, I mean, the matchup, you would think that if he can't do Jack in this matchup, then yeah, forget trust or anything. He's not doing anything else. That's the way I see it.
In a PPR format, if he does not score at least 10 points and more likely 12 or more, I think we know what we got. Do you know what I'm saying? Like he's not what we want if that's the case. Now, if he hits 15 points this week, which I think is very plausible, very doable. That's why I say as a flex play, it's a little ballsy because you're going to have to use them potentially over some other guys you may not want to. But, I mean, you know, you're not using them over Chase Brown, for example, right? Like,
right. No.
Okay. Woody Marks, yeah, I could use him over Woody Marks. You know, I think that's probably the tier that I would put him in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Potential volume play, maybe cap ceiling, that sort of thing. But I get nervous when I feel like the hype exceeds what I think the player is. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That makes sense.
Right. And it's not like this guy has been in waiting and he's just waiting for the guy to go down and be unleashed and he's going to be great. This is just who's next. That's what it's going to be. You know,
I mean, imagine how happy would you be if you had Kendra Miller and it was Kendra Miller right now?
Yeah.
With this scenario. Do you know what I mean? Like, we saw a lot more from Miller in from my eye test, which take it for what it's worth, right? Doesn't mean much. I thought Miller looked 2x what we've seen from Neil, you know? So I'm bummed we don't get that show. You know, what would this have looked like for us Kendra Miller owners? I mean, that was a player we were kind of suggesting and pushing the last couple of years for different reasons. But that's the part that kind of bumps me out is, and heck, Neil, I hope you make it work. I hope you flash. But I got to tell you, the 7 for 18 last week didn't really excite me. And even in Miller's down games on rushing, the rushing was a little bit better. Is Neil maybe a better replacement for Kamara? I guess potentially. But like I said, go talk to a Kamara owner. Kamara owners were not looking to use Kamara in their starting lineups for the last month.
No, because he's not. And that's the thing. It's with Kamara, and you can even go back a long time before. I mean, this guy he needs those passes. We need this guy getting those 6+ targets every single week because he's not going to do anything crazy on the ground. But I think the other part of the whole Kendre Miller thing, Rich, is that we knew from the start, from before the season began, this Saints team was very likely going to be sellers at the deadline. We knew that. And that's where maybe the excitement was also coming from that. Okay, Kendre Miller, maybe you spend an extra $1 or $2 on him in your auction and he's hanging there on your bench. But then the second half of the season comes and here you go, a nice running back that we know has the skill set that could get us to 10 to 12 points a week in a PPR for the stretch run. And unfortunately, injuries, rear their ugly head. And now this is the situation.
Well, I think that's part of it, Vince.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's definitely part of it there when talking about the New Orleans Saints. Now, Rich, let me ask.
I think with Miller, there's also the part.
Oh, Rich, I think we're losing you here for a second. Yeah, I think we might have just lost Rich Maletto. But like we were talking about before with the Saints, they, at the time, beginning of the season, I mean, you knew that they were going to be selling pieces. The future of Kamara, very bleary at this point. And now looking at it, even seeing him run, it just has not been the same, unfortunately. I mean, another team that we could talk about when it comes to whether or not we can trust them. I mean, the Chicago Bears on a week in, week out basis, at one point it's a Dunze's world. Then here's DJ Moore all of a sudden scoring touchdowns. Moore wasn't getting targets. Now he's getting targets. Luther Burden into the mix right there. And it's become so hard to just figure out with some of these teams. And that's why I brought up a team like the Jaguars before, because you didn't know when it came to their pass catchers who we can trust. And then, of course, Hunter goes down, and that opens things up a little bit with what we're seeing. But at the end of the day, it just is so hard to figure out. And that's why I was just asking Rich about Strange, because with Brenton Strange coming back, is he just going to be part of that hodgepodge or not? Rich, let's continue talking with you about some of your streamers here, because you can find your streamers article at fantasyguru.com. What are your thoughts on the Arizona Cardinals? Because from the appendectomy, Marvin Harrison's probably going to need a few more weeks here. We've seen Michael Wilson just explode. And how do you feel about Brissett heading into week 13?
I'm pretty bullish, right? Like, dude, I don't know if people realize this. Brissett hasn't scored less than 18.5 points since taking over the starting role. Like, and is Michael Wilson surpassing Marvin Harrison Jr.? Is that, I mean, can we be honest and have a legit conversation between the coach's comments and the volume that Wilson even saw the game with Harrison? And what's unfortunate is Brissett's barely played with Harrison. I mean, right. That's the thing. We haven't even really seen. We've seen how much better this offense is with Jacoby Brissett over Kyler Murray. Anyone who wants to tell me it's not better, I think they're stupid. I'm trying to not be too mean, but I'm sorry. I think you're stupid. It is noticeably better. And if that's the case, man, it's a shame, because remember, Harrison had the concussion, so he only played part of the one game, missed the next game. And then now he's had the appendectomy. So Jacoby's only had one guy, and he's not a dummy. The guy's been around the league a few years. He understands, get it to your big, tall receivers, let them make plays. But I'm really curious what this offense looks like, because it sure sounds like from the coaching staff that they're quite impressed with Michael Wilson at this point.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of weird because we won't know for another few weeks if this was a correlation or not. But when you see someone like Michael Wilson getting targeted as much as he has, it's got to be more than just Harrison not being in the mix. There's got to be a connection that's been forming.
Agreed.
Rich, we're talking about 18 and 15 targets the last few weeks.
I know. It's insane. That's what I said. When Harrison comes back, what are we going to get? Are both of them going to get 8 apiece? Is this going to turn into such a heavy – and that's not including a Trey Benson that we all are excited about. What does this – I mean, the Cardinals are kind of hanging on to playoff hopes here. What happens when they get Benson and Harrison back? Like, if I'm this coaching staff, I'm really hoping these guys come back soon, because I want to see what we got. Because is this an Arizona team that can make a push for the playoffs? They've played everybody tough they played this year, regardless of how banged up and what kind of mash unit they've put out there. I mean,
right.
The Seattle game was a bit of a blowout, right? But beyond that, they've been tough. So I'm going to see how it goes. I really do. My fear is us Marvin Harrison owners might be hating life in about 8 months.
Yeah, I've got him in a league too. And look, I'm even looking at some of the snap share breakdowns when both of them have been healthy, and it's very even between the two of them. It's very even. Now, Wilson's got a couple more games on him, but even look, when they were last in, they played the same number of snaps in week 9. Week 10, Wilson played one more than Harrison. So they're right there on the field together. So, Rich, maybe we're on to something here that even in the next few weeks, because, I mean, with Marvin Harrison, with an appendectomy, you don't need to be a doctor to figure this out, but to any of our friends that have gotten their appendixes out before, it takes 4 weeks for you to be able to walk without pain, or at least be able to walk with somewhat pain-free. I mean, you have to think he's going to be out for another couple of weeks here. But the problem is, Rich, by the time he could be reinserted back into the lineup here, it's going to be fantasy playoff time. And based on what we're talking about, I think Wilson's target volume won't be like this. But if you're asking 8 targets with Brissett throwing this much, if he still continues to throw somewhat this much, I think 6 to 8 targets every week is very doable, even when Harrison's back on the field.
I think that's on the low side, if I'm being honest, Vince. I really do. I think we were looking at maybe like more like 8 as the floor for targets for him. Like
that would be amazing. If that's going to be his floor, Rich, for the rest of the year, then this guy's going to be an every week starter for the rest of the year. So, I mean, that's
agreed.
And again, that's
and
why
I think that's a legitimate thing. I think Michael Wilson as a starter, at least as a wide receiver 3, and I think that's being conservative, is a starter. I think he's an every week starter. If I had Michael Wilson in my lineups right now, especially with Harrison out of the lineup, rock and load start for me. Receiver 2, hands down, without a doubt. I'll take the volume and I'll take the good with the bad.
Rich, who are a few defenses that you consider streaming for week 13?
Honestly, I think Dallas is one. I know people are going to kind of laugh at that, facing the Chiefs, but Mahomes has thrown a couple of picks the last couple of weeks. This is not the same Dallas defense from before the trade deadline. And something with football in general, heart, determination, Jermaine made the comment about, Sanders put a little spark in the offense, a little pep in the step. I don't know if I'm 100% there, but there was a little something to that. But you're definitely seeing that with Dallas. This is not the same defense. They feel like they have all the tools they need. They are playing with a chip on their shoulder. I don't think anybody really gave them much of a hope against the Eagles last week. I think the Cowboys can win this game. We did our staff pick'ems last night. I got to tell you, Finsty, I went outside, had to have a cigarette to talk through the Cowboy-Chiefs matchup because I was really close to picking Dallas, and I ended up going with the Chiefs. But I think this is going to be much closer than people think. And this Dallas defense, look, for the playoff run, I'm not sure Dallas isn't a bad defense to ride. I really don't. I want to see it another week or so, maybe 2. But this is not the same defense, and I think they're worth streaming, and they're out there in all the leagues, right? San Francisco against the Browns. That's another one. San Francisco's gotten healthier. They are definitely playing a lot better. Facing the Browns on the road. The Browns have to travel. I'm assuming they stayed out in California since they were already in Vegas. But, they got to go out to California. So I like, the Niners at home. Sanders is still got some warts. I mean, is he better than Gabriel? He's at least pushing the ball down the field more, but he's also probably more prone to mistakes. And then, look, I could go either way on this side of the coin. Jacksonville versus Tennessee Titans. If you go look at since the coaching change for the Titans, they've played everybody tough. They have not been an easy out for anybody. I mean, I was shocked to see how many one-score losses there was over the last 3 weeks. Jacksonville's defense, especially when Lloyd is on the field, they just keep coming up with turnovers, man. They keep coming up with big plays. So give me Jacksonville versus Cam Ward and the Titans. But honestly, if you're in a pinch, I'm okay using the Titans against Jacksonville. I put the Titans down as I think they win this game. So if I think the Titans win this game, then I got to believe the defense is going to be playable.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I mean, even watching Trevor Lawrence here, he makes some pretty stupid throws. I'll tell you that much. So that's a good way to go up there against them too. But also the Jaguars defense, I've utilized them a couple of weeks. I used Dallas a couple of weeks ago too, which was helpful. And they've actually had some pretty decent performances there against some of the softer teams. And then I'll remind you guys, they do have on the schedule after KC and Detroit, they do have Minnesota and Washington in that mix during the playoff stretch. So just remember that going in, and remember the name Rich Maletto from fantasyguru.com. Rich, what do you have coming up on the site?
So let's see. We got Start Sit. Everything for this week is out except for Start Sit. Start Sit will be coming up Thursday, Friday. I will be on that. There will not be a buy, sell, cut article from me next week because I'm still traveling. I am in Memphis, and then I'm in Ohio, and then I'm in Pennsylvania. And once I get to Pennsylvania, it's not a lot of civilization where I'm going to. So I'm not sure what I'll have for internet and whatnot. But then the streamers article we'll be back on, and we'll be right back into the groove. I'll be hit and miss on Discord, so I'll do what I can to hang out with all of you all out there. But it's about the same old, man. NASCAR's done. I'm just watching the lawsuit and the mud flinging. If you want some popcorn reading, Justin, highly recommend reading the text messages from NASCAR ownership. You could just sit there eating popcorn, imagining my head face turning red as I'm getting angrier and angrier. So.
Well, Rich Maletto. One thing about him there, he's a guy that gets himself a little angry, then goes on a little bit of a rant. Rich Maletto angry. That is TV, must-see TV right there. Rich, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. I hope that it's great. And to everybody out there, want to thank you all for hanging out. Ray Flowers will be back on shore tomorrow, but not Friday, noon Eastern for Fantasy Sports Daily. You can catch Ray, though, with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show today, 2 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. I will be in Discord a little bit later on, finishing up the NBA write-up now, then NBA betting. We got Discord. We got Watch Along Wednesday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern in our DFS NBA Discord channel. For the Bosco, I'm the Fensty. It's Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by the good old FG, FantasyGuru.com. Happy Thanksgiving.